Here's Shackleton again, and here's Paul again, and we're just going to continue on the science of superstorms. So, just continuing right along, I've got a lot of science to cover here. I'm really sciencing you out here. In Houston, this was written a year ago, this article. So, 3 years ago, there was a 1 in 500 year event of flooding in Houston. And then the year after, so 2 years ago, 1 in 500 event. And then last year, it was a 1 in 1,000 year event in Houston. So what happens? These numbers are just stats. They're like return intervals on these storms. They show how rare they are. But the climate system has changed, so these stats are no longer valid. Obviously, what used to be a 1 in 1,000 year event in the old familiar climate, perhaps it's a 1 in 30 year event now, or even more, even higher. Um, so as we get further warming, maybe it'll become a 1 in 5 year event. Eventually, if it's so frequent, it means that recovery from one event to the next is basically impossible. So we've lost our climate stability. Weather extremes are increasing in frequency, severity, and duration. Is going to affect global food supply very soon. We're in an age of consequences. I'm going to send a tweet to Trudeau and say, you know what? Let's not sell. Let's just stop selling softwood lumber to the U.S. Because all those houses and stuff that are going to be destroyed on the East Coast. There'll be big shortages, and maybe Mr. T will say, oh, hey, maybe those Canadians aren't so bad. They're playing hardball. Maybe he'll have to write another book, The Art of the Deal Part 2 or something, and include some of Trudeau's maneuvers. I don't know. We're in an age of consequences. Global food supply is the big threat, is under big threat. Appeasement of the governments and politicians is not acceptable. Lip service is not acceptable. Fossil fuel subsidies of $5 trillion a year by governments of the world must be removed. Otherwise, we're in for a world of hurt. We're in for a world of hurt anyway, but don't listen to what any government say as long as they're continuing to subsidize fossil fuels. They're just, their talk is meaningless. Look at Trudeau buying this huge pipeline. Just don't get me started on that. So basically, and read this commentary. I'm not going to go through it all. It talks a bit about me, my background, what I do. It talks about some of the videos I did, weather extremes in the jet stream, talking about how extreme weather events are going. This is years and years ago. And the new normal, there is no new normal. Like, forget it. We're on this sharply rising. Here's the curve coming across, boom, going up, and then reaching some stable state, much higher temperature. We're on this curve, so everything is changing. Global warming on steroids. Okay. Okay, and there's a lot of stuff here. There's a bit more background. There's some of the stuff, the great work that climate scientists and communicators, myself, Michael Mann, Hansen, Jennifer Francis, she's the jet stream guru, and I have to talk to her soon about the last video I did on the Greenland becoming the center of rotation for the jet streams when we have no ice left in the Arctic Ocean. Catherine Hayhoe, Global Weirding, Joe Rahm of Climate Progress, and lots of other people doing stuff. So this is a great, and it continues on, and there's some of the videos, a couple of my videos, and then Peter Sinclair, I believe, Yale Climate Connections videos and stuff like that. What happens in the Arctic does not stay in the Arctic. I should have trademarked that. It's one of the things I'm kicking myself for. But anyway, live and learn. Okay, so let's have a look at these superstorms. Okay, so if you go on Twitter, make sure you follow me if you're not. And, you can do a search here. And let's look at Florence first. I looked at Florence earlier. You can do this, and if it'll update. Okay, so here we go. This is, so hashtag Florence is the best one for Florence, and you can see, there's a bunch of pigs. I don't think this is this storm. I think it's a previous storm. And there's lots of stuff here, lots of stuff going on. You can see, this is what's happening. This was 5 hours ago. You can actually click on latest, is always good. And let's see what the latest is. Let's see what's going on right now, which is, with Florence. And, you get the, what? Okay, port city of Wilmington hunkers down, and the water keeps rising, okay, near the coast. Look at that. I don't know how high that thing is. Probably pretty high. Flash flooding, other effects. There's a couple interesting effects. First, one of the things is you've got that radar scope app. You can get sort of, these radar images on your smartphone, and you can see there's all these tornado warnings. So tornadoes are spinning off this storm. And in fact, some of the areas that have the worst flash flooding also are getting tornadoes. And another thing is the downdraft at the front of the storm is so it's drier air out here. It's descending down, or it's coming down. It's wet air. It's coming down. The water's coming out of it. Actually, well, the temperatures. It's adiabatic heating as you get the air coming down, and so it's super hot over here, right? It's super hot over here into Florida, like 95 degrees Fahrenheit or something, and it's attributed to this downdraft here. So that's another interesting thing. Anyway, you can see lots of images, but let's have a look at the Mr. M here. Okay, so Mangkhut. I'm going to talk about this storm because this storm is a beast, okay? I mean, it smashed into the Philippines with 255-kilometer-an-hour winds. It just razed the Philippines, the northern Philippines. Torrential rains, look at the eye of this thing. It just came right across here, and, it's just interior of hotel trash, losing data, windows and doors blown in. Here we go here. This is as it was coming across the northern part of the Philippines. Direct hit. Category 5. No room to slow down. It's not hitting a big coastline. It's hitting an island. And then it's re-strengthening now and heading right to China. 150 million people in that region. Luckily, Hong Kong and Taiwan are Taiwan's getting some of the outer bands here. Okay, so lots of stuff on here. So that's how you can access a lot of the stuff. Now, in my last video, there's lots of good comments. I love the commenters. Thank you there's a few more trolls in the last couple of days because I went and posted on their site and I attracted them like fleas basically over here. So I had to swat them with my fly swatter to ban a lot of them. I mean, they just have no. They just do it on purpose. I think they're being idiots on purpose a lot of the case. Anyway, Wendy, you gotta read every comment she makes. If she makes a comment, you gotta read it. She's incredible. She knows all kinds of stuff. And she was saying that this typhoon is heading in going to Pearl River Delta, urban region in China. It's Hong Kong and Macau are sort of outside. They're not going to get direct hits, I don't think. But very not well known, but very, very, not to the west, but very, very heavily populated places like the Pearl River Delta urban region in China is 120 million people. That's 12 North Carolinas. Sorry, I kept saying 150 million, 120 million in this. Well, that's just in the Pearl River, and then if you go out of that a bit, there's more. Okay, so she recommended some sites that I look at. So this is a great site. This is ocean temperatures, global ocean temperatures, and if you just click on a particular region, you can get a close-up view. So we got to move over a bit. Okay, so this is where Typhoon M is coming up, right up into here. Okay, great site. There's a map. This is the map that I want, and just a little break here, little Percival break. Hey Percival, how you doing? Hey, it's funny when you get him mad, like he starts biting you, but he starts biting you, softly, and you go, ow, ow, pull your hand back, and then he's like all guilty and stuff. Like he feels, oh, I've hurt him. You know, cats are smarter than we give them credit for. Okay, so this is a site, another site. This is the Hong Kong Observatory, and the cyclone tracking information. So here's where it is right now, and this is the path where it's going. And I can also look at this guy right here. So look at this. This is the this is from again the Hong Kong Observatory, and what it's showing is the those probability forecasts. Well, look at them for Florence, and they're they start narrow and they get wider as you go out like 5 days or so. I mean, look at this thing. It's like perfectly straight here. I mean, this is almost like the ears, and this is like a giraffe head, actually. Really straight. Or if you actually look at it upside down, it looks like something else. I don't know. You could argue that this whole region is going to get kind of effed by this typhoon. Actually, there's probably kids watching this, so I may have to edit that out. But this is a beast. This is like, look at the path here. It's unbelievable. Just it's so straight, and this is category 5. This is pushing up. We really need a category 6 scale. Okay, so let's see if he goes for a little bit of food here. There we go. That's too big a piece. Come on, you want some? Okay. Anyway, you can let me know in the comments how terrible cheese is for cats. But like I said, my rationale is mice eat cheese, cats eat mice. Everybody does fine except for the mice. Cats are perfectly happy. And so therefore a little bit of cheese can't harm them, right? Okay, so I've talked a lot about a lot of different things. And so in summary, we're in a different world. Sorry, folks, our planet has changed. Guidance mechanisms have changed. Energy balance between the equator and poles has changed. Chemistry of the atmosphere and oceans has changed. The way that heat moves has changed. So, of course, the way we grow food will have to change. The way we do things will have to change. So, I will bring up one of the horrible feedbacks that's happening right now. Okay, think of think of all the people that are homeless from their homes are destroyed and they have no insurance, and if there's no government, FEMA runs out of money and there's no insurance. These people are all driven into poverty. If they were in other countries, they would probably migrate, try to find somewhere better, somewhere safer. So they migrate. They go into countries. The countries that let them in have progressive governments, but they let in lots of people, and the people come in, and the culture changes too fast. So people in the country, even countries like Sweden, for example, there's a cultural backlash, right? There's nationalism and protectionism comes on the rise, and even a country like Sweden votes in a right-wing government, right? It just happened in Ontario. We got Ford. I mean, that was and the Conservative Party at the federal level is really pushing this immigrant thing, and it has to be countered. And the way to counter it is like governments that are progressive. They have to bring in a carbon price, a carbon tax right away, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to have a system. Maybe the UN should set it up. This is what we recommend for every country. They just go and do it. A carbon price, fee and dividend. Best way to do it. You put it in day one when the government's elected. You don't take 3 years to implement it, and then your government collapses, is voted out the next year. And then any plan that you have that you spent years developing is chopped by the right-wing government. And we've got to do something about, I don't know, how do we ever educate the right wing about climate change? Anyway, this is a huge feedback, human feedback. We're going to a world of repression, far right-wing ideological governments that don't even acknowledge that climate change exists. So if you ask me about the prognosis, we need huge education programs for people